we are in a major shift in the advertising world. Yeah, so as that's what I started with. Yes, just as digital media evolved from single brand deals to programmatic buying, I think influencer marketing is undergoing the same transformation. And all these branded content platforms with influencer marketing, yes, there's evolving and taking bigger share. And with Uplify, with programmatic influencer marketing approach, this is a new frontier.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Lee with the E-Marketing Association. I'm here today with the Pasha, the founder of Uplify, and Ilana Nolte, who is an advisor to the company. And so I would love to start with the origin story. So with every venture, there's an origin story where the founder sort of feels compelled to meet the need of a market that isn't being met. So I'd love to hear, Pasha, you're the catalyst for you deciding like no one else has this and I need to build it.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me today, and Ilana. Yeah, so like early in my career, like I have more than 16 years in advertising and marketing as executive. Like I noticed a recurring problem, like how brands could reach like massive audience in an engaging way, but it doesn't feel like another disruptive ad. Yeah, so and traditional platforms like YouTube offered scale, but they lack authenticity, and that's why direct brands deal with influencer agencies, but it's hard to scale. Yeah. So like early in the days, like 4 years ago, we had a vision that they had a platform that could combine the best of both worlds, the best of the programmatic and the best of the influencer marketing. That's just to put story short, that's the vision. Of course, I can tell, I can tell a lot about that, but just to put the story short, that's the story.
Great. Well, there are a bunch of other platforms, and obviously in the influencer ecosystem and the creator economy, you've got, everything from the Kardashians and Cristiano Ronaldo down to micro influencers that may have, smaller followings, but a highly engaged and passionate following of their friends. And, one of the things that brands struggle with is, the sort of uh, I guess you call it influencer marketing mix, right? Which types of influencers should they engage in, and what should be the criteria for the selection process, and how can they scale? And they also struggle with the idea of control, like because especially old school brand marketers are like used to scripting things and having things be extremely on script for old school, TV advertising, for example. And influencer marketing makes some brands uncomfortable. So how do you balance that out? Like if I go with five big influencers, I can sort of at least somewhat control the narrative. If I, now I'm dealing with 40 mid-tier influencers or 4,000 bottom influencers, right? They may all have similar reach, different levels of engagement, and obviously their own ability to add to the creative. So how should a brand think about that ecosystem and find a way to build an influencer mix that works for them?
Yeah, Kevin, thanks for that. But you're absolutely right. So, like, according to the latest research, like more than 80% of the marketeers, they consider influencer marketing as the vital part of their media mix, right? And you've touched different topics here. So, micro creators, mid-tier creators, like huge creators like Kim Kardashian, etc. So, it all depends on your goals, right? So, and for instance, if you talking about the micro and mid-tier creators, and you're absolutely right. Yes, so there's an increasing importance of micro and mid-tier creators who often have a stronger connection with their niche communities. Yes, and that's where our technology steps in, not in terms of branded content, because most people, when we talk about the influencer marketing, most people think about the branded content and then it's enhanced with paid media. I think here, just to make clear for everybody, so when the creator dedicate a space within their content, and we insert predefined advertising format or virtual product. So it works like with traditional digital advertising, yeah. So that like you remember the story when digital world, yes, evolved from one-time deals when the brands had the one-time deals with big publishers. It evolved to the programmatic. Yes. So we believe that there's a fundamental shift in the media landscape right now. So creators are emerging as a powerful media channel. Yes. And we envision that there will be a lot of solutions that combine reach, yes, scale, the one that can give Kim Kardashian for you, yes, and the efficiency of the programmatic advertising. Yeah. So we envision these type of technologies, and we think Uplify is here for that, especially for the marketeers who are struggling to find the best ways. Because I understand they can buy the YouTube ads that lack authenticity, or they can go to influencer marketing agencies with one or two big deals, but it's hard to scale. Yeah.
And totally, Pasha. And I think just to add to that, one of the trends that we're starting to see with brands, and there's an opportunity to do more of, is not just pick one or two or five handfuls of influencers per campaign, but actually looking at a diverse portfolio of influencers, the same way as Pasha was saying, you look at different types of media channels. So we have an opportunity now to pick a range of nanos and micros and megas and celebrities all within one campaign. So you're hitting on that scale as well as engaging with campaigns to create for a more well-rounded kind of initiative around brands needs, whatever. So, it's like any investment, right? My mutual funds, right? You want a little stocks, you want a little bond. So it's thinking about it in that way.
Yeah, I would suggest a little bit different angle. Yes, when you talk about the influencer marketing, you think about the influencers, yes, and you think about the names that pops up in your hand. Yes, but we look at the influencers as a powerhouses, as a media publishers. And every media publisher has their own audience, right? So, and we approach with curated audience packages. So when the brand comes, so the goal of the brand is to reach a certain audience or to get a certain performance of a certain audience. So that's why, for instance, we try to apply this data-driven approach in the influencer marketing. When you don't buy the names, you buy the audience, and you activate this audience and you reach this audience in the most effective way, the same as you have in the programmatic, right? So it's a kind of a combination of influencer, yes, and their influence to their audience, but in the same way, there is a programmatic component that makes it effective for the brands dealing with this audience.
And just from an operational perspective, right? When a lot of folks think about programmatic, they think about the programmatic ecosystem where each impression has an opportunity to see a different ad. But obviously, when you're dealing with influencers and they have to sort of hard code into the platform, that they're on, which could be Insta or TikTok or YouTube or whatever, they're hard coding the message into, let's say, an episode or a post, right? It's programmatic potentially because they might be scheduled among 4,000 other influencers to be running that particular, product placement, let's call it, more similar to how would be in a TV environment, right? But it's not, just so the people are clear, right? It's not programmatic in a sense that every consumer engaging with that post would see a different ad. It's that ad slot is more like a product placement, if I'm understanding correctly. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. But as I mentioned, we are trying to get this data-driven approach and curated audience packages, right? So definitely, like I will just a short story. Yeah. So when I recall working on the marketing strategy for the launch of the Amazon Prime, The Lord of the Rings, yeah, The Power of the Rings. And so the YouTube presented a massive audience, but we needed a more authentic way to connect with the viewers who were passionate about the fantasy genre, yes? And the traditional model of the branded content or disruptive pre-roll ads like feel really a little bit inauthentic. and the disconnected from this immersive experience that we wanted to create. Yes, and we try to apply our vision, yes, our technologies there, and instead of disruptive ads, we seamlessly integrated these brand messages into the creator's content in a way that it feels natural, organic, and we targeted especially people who already demonstrated their engagement in this topic. Yeah, so we reached the creators who had this audience with these topics as of their interest.
Right.
So it's a contextual targeting. You can call it contextual targeting.
Yeah, no, that's I think really useful for marketers to understand is that the context is based on the influencer and those influencers' topics and the influencers' passions, right? As opposed to audience driven, where you might be trying to, put a cereal box in context, but if the person has no interest or doesn't discuss cereal in any way, it's not relevant, right? If it's not a food or nutritional content, then why is cereal in it? It doesn't have that same authentic fit in that instance.
It's absolutely right, Kevin, and it's one of the biggest topics and the challenges right now. So authenticity, right? So because creators, they want to monetize the content in the way it's authentic and aligned with their values. Yeah. So that we try to provide them the tools to manage this ad inventory, to set their own rates, because for instance, micro creators want to have X CPM. Yes, the mid-tier or the big creators, they want to have higher payout.
Mhm.
And we allow creators to maintain control over their brand. Because as I mentioned, creators and the influencers, it's like a big publishers, and they have their own brand, and they're cautious on what they're placing in their content, for sure. And that's why when we are in Uplify, so we analyze a lot of different data points from the context, interests of the audience, interests of the creators. And for instance, when I remember the story when the big brand, CPG brand, came to us, they have a pack of chips. Well, it was in Latam, and they said, like, what type of creators you think we can target? And we conducted a research in our platform among the all creators and asked them to just to answer typical question: how much they consume chips, how much they consume like a soft drinks in that category. And we made sure that this campaign is focused only to the creators who share the values or who are not, for instance, focused on the straight edge and the healthy living, for instance. Yeah. So that was a kind of a fit, yes, of this brand to their audience and to their values as the creators.
Yeah,
Right.
I think the data and the technology is super powerful as we're continuing to progress in this space, and really interesting what the likes of Uplify is doing now with AI, right? So based on the fact that we have an AI tech platform to help spin this programmatic delivery, we're able to really identify influencers with that data, inform the activation, use it for dynamic creative, analytics and reporting, obviously from a measurement perspective, is really key and really powerful, right, Pasha?
Yeah, Ilana, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. So when you talk about the connected TV or digital out of home, yes, with dynamic creatives. So AI helps us to adopt creatives to every creator that is posted. So okay, imagine we have 1,000 influencers. Yeah, so and we have a key visual from the brand, but with the help of AI, we can adopt it. Yes, we can change it so it really looks authentic in every content of every different streamer that we have. Yeah, so because they are the brands. Yeah, so they have their own brands, and we can combine it, add a little bit of colors of their branding. Maybe we can highlight some little twists in the design, and that's make it authentic in the content.
Right. Yep. That's fascinating. So it's mass customization of the ads as happening in conjunction with the mass reach,
It's
right?
like
So you're getting
it's like a dynamic content optimization. Yes, DCO. we know all that it happens with traditional digital advertising, but we see no objections, or we see no reasons why it cannot happen with the influencer marketing.
Right. And for the influencer, right? Because I'm sure brands will be interested in, how the influencer is making a decision. I would imagine that the influencer has a dashboard where they can sort of see what opportunities they have to integrate, and they get to choose. They can perhaps already see the pre-rendered creative right at that point as well, and then they go ahead and make the decision to insert. Is that pretty much the operational flow?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. This is the operational flow. So they can define the categories, or they can block the categories of the content, block the categories of the advertisers that they don't want to get into their content. And of course, they see the creative. It's predefined. They see how it will look in their content. Definitely, that's because as we are empowering creators, yes. So we want to build a kind of a sustainable ecosystem that benefits brands, creators, and consumers alike. Yes, because if one of these components doesn't fit, then the ecosystem is not sustainable.
Right, right. Absolutely. Well, to use sort of another sort of personality-driven ecosystem, podcasting, right? Podcasting has a combination of sort of programmatic ad inventory and what would be, sponsor-based inventory, and in some cases live reads, right, where the personality actually engages with the brand directly. In your instance, are there situations where the influencer will do brand mentions prior to, insertion of the ad and actually reference the brand, knowing what they inserted in that in the creative?
Yeah, so let me answer it this way. So, of course, we have voice recognition tools. Yeah, so it's just to your answer, does the creator announce it? Yes, sometimes they do announce it. But the thing is that not always we can report it to the client. Yes, so sometimes influencer or creator announce it in order to reach certain metrics like CTR or performance, yeah,
Right.
and increase their income, and to deliver campaign with all the proper metrics. But we don't force them to announce that, because we believe sometimes it might don't feel authentic and natural, yeah,
Sure.
and we cannot report it to the brand. Okay, there were 3 mentions, because we are not operating like traditional influencer marketing agency. We
Yeah.
are reporting metrics like in traditional digital media. Yeah, so we are reporting clicks, we are reporting reach, we are reporting conversions, and the creators, they understand that they earn money, so they get more than 50% of the income, right? So creators are passionately interested in delivering this campaign because they understand it's a direct money that goes to their account.
Right, right. Yeah. Just trying to imagine, one of the hats I wear is I own Truth Nutrition, a nutraceutical company, right? So I'm imagining that if there's a placement and the person happens to be aware of the brand, they might choose to comment on the fact that it's a brand that they've used or not, right? But probably not, they wouldn't comment if they didn't, but they might comment if they did, or if they were aware of the brand, or just said, hey, please help support my sponsor for today, Truth Nutrition, something quite innocuous that way, So I'm just sort of curious to what extent influencers, either within different categories or of different sizes, are doing those kinds of mentions, or is it really sort of plug and play where they just don't even think about it?
What we learned based from our like a practical experience, that the micro and mid-tier creators, of course, they try harder, right? So they try harder because it's not a jokes, yes, because like most of the creators are struggling with monetization, like in the US, and especially, for instance, in LATAM or EMEA region, yes, where we had our branches and where we started. So that's why they try harder and try to deliver these metrics. So and maybe that's why we like to engage. So there are more than 36,000 live stream creators, okay? And I mean in the platform, and we love to deal with the micro and mid-tier creators, because anyway the brand pays only for the actual views or for the actual results of the campaign. And they seem to us more hardworking, I would say. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it sounds like you know, you might end up getting a bang for the buck, a better bang for the buck in that sort of mid to lower tier influencer because they are working so much harder and may have a more engaged audience. But if you need the reach, that then maybe you should be considering going more upper into the upper echelons of the market, the influencer ecosystem. So do you recommend that brands sort of start at the bottom and work their way up, or is it very dependent on the objectives?
I think it depends on objectives and goals. Yeah. So if you want to build reach and awareness and the brand image, definitely maybe sponsorship with a sports assets or with a big influencers, that could be the key. And then this type of, you can call it, I used to work in sports sponsorship, so it's working like sponsorship activation. Yeah. So you have a sponsorship and you activate it, you deliver the sponsorship to the audience, right? So with the mid-tier and micro creators, definitely depending on the objectives, but you can get the wide reach even with the mid-tier creators as well. So you don't need to hunt for 1% top YouTube influencers. There's no need in that.
Right, right. A lot of times for certain platforms in particular, the platforms make it more challenging, or the typical use case for that platform is not let me take a break from what I'm doing and click out and do something else, right? And so you think about Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it these days, right? It was always designed for, hey, look over there. Easy to click out, easy to link out to things. Facebook, same thing. Links, easy to link out. YouTube, okay, not quite as easy, but you can include links, in a YouTube. Not so much in the shorts, but certainly in the larger, aspect ratio, you could include links there, right? But then you get into the Insta and TikTok ecosystem where the typical use case is, I just want to see what the next piece of content is, right? And so influencers have been using things like coupon codes to attempt to close the loop a little bit. Do you guys allow for the custom creation and insertion of those call to action coupon codes or coupon messages into the ads for those marketers who are trying to see, like, does this work at all?
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. So when we do this, we call it and it really performed well. We call it a hybrid campaign when the brand pays for the CPM and the CPA. Yeah, the brand gets performance in comparison with engagement, for instance. And in this case, Uplify programmatic engine optimizes distribution to the most effective channel. So it means if the creator is not performing well, we give them less views and less impressions. And if the creator is performing better, we give them much higher volumes. Yeah, so I would say that's the that's the vision that we will get into. I think that the influencer marketing will more and more will be involving into more kind of a performance-based or kind of a half-half, yeah? So half performance, half engagement. It's not purely performance instrument for sure, yes, but it can definitely drive revenue for the companies.
Yeah. And I mean, even providing the QR codes, right? We've seen really high performance rates on that. And I mean, my whole question is why brands aren't doing more e-commerce in the social space. We know that 42% of Americans, I believe is the number, are actually purchasing through social. China is up to 82%, right? And I feel like if brands were there and taking advantage of these opportunities with the showcases and the brand endorsements, there would be more. There would be more commerce happening through social. So it's an exciting space to watch.
Yeah, Ilana, you just touched this topic about the QR codes, and I think that our audience of your podcast is aware how the QR codes is really important for connected TV advertising. Yes, and we see there will be just from the recent YouTube upfronts conference this year. So YouTube is now, the second most watched media distributor, right? And they just stated that there will be a lot of actions, and there will be better look at the branded QR codes, because it allows like viewers to be engaged or to purchase products, but still consuming the content in the same place, and yeah, without switching it to other browser or switching it to another place.
Right. Yeah, I mean, QR codes are fascinating. Obviously, the pandemic rescued them from obscurity to where now most consumers do know how to use them. It does require a two-device content consumption, right? Because, a QR code showing up on a smartphone, that's the thing you use to scan the QR code.
Yeah.
So it's when it's on a bigger screen, it's either on a notebook, desktop, laptop, or, connected TV screen. Obviously there was a big Super Bowl ad that became famous because that's all it was, right? Was a QR code.
Yeah.
But clearly QR codes are pretty powerful. Actually, my direct mail division prints custom QR codes on every piece of mail for each recipient, so that we can, hyper personalize the entire user experience from that point forward. So I'm a huge fan of allowing for hyper personalization and QR codes to coexist.
Yeah, and you mentioned the promo code. So with this personalization of the creatives on the creators level, yeah, so we personalize codes, these promo codes for every creator.
Right.
Yes, and we distribute it so that the audience feels that this is authentic, yes, and the creator feels, okay, this is a QR code, like especially under my name from this brand, and that's why it fits the audience.
From a content consumption basis, is it a lot of CTV, or is it mostly mobile devices where a QR code would not be as relevant as sort of just a numerical coupon code?
Of course, it depends on the platform. You probably heard that the YouTube, YouTube is mostly, like, not mostly, of course, but the share of the consumption with the television sets, the YouTube is growing. Yes, so our content is mostly consumed by mobile phone and a desktop. We have like 60%, 50 or 60% with a desktop consumption, as well as mobile phones. Yeah,
Right,
QR codes in this case, of course, not relevant, of course.
right. So, are there any like trends that are going on that you think will really shape the future of influencer marketing, either traditional or programmatic?
Um, it's a good question. So I would say, like, we are in a major shift in the advertising world. Yeah, so as that's what I started with. Yes, just as digital media evolved from single brand deals to programmatic buying, I think influencer marketing is undergoing the same transformation. And all these branded content platforms with influencer marketing, yes, there's evolving and taking bigger share. And with Uplify, with programmatic influencer marketing approach, this is a new frontier, yeah. So, and I think there's a new category in the advertising is uh, uh, going to be born. Yeah, I don't know if I put it right.
Ilana, any thoughts on where you think the future is going?
Yeah, I mean, this space is continuing to explode. Even if we just firstly look at the numbers of media consumption, right? We know that people are spending 35% of their online activity per day on social media, and teens specifically, it's up to 5 hours per day. And I know this firsthand by looking at my 17-year-old. But I think what's more meaningful is the fact that, yes, brands are therefore spending more in this space. I think it's up 16% this year. But 60% of brands are specifically looking to increase in live streaming. And I think live streaming is a really interesting space because of the continued shift from network TV to live video in TikTok, Insta, YouTube, et cetera. So I think it's really interesting to watch that space. I think, we've talked about a lot of the specific tactics and nuances that we have advantage of leveraging now, such as that diverse portfolio of influencers, looking across the funnel, the purchase funnel. We talked about leveraging AI. I think the one other thing I'd like to mention is focusing on support of diverse creators. I think the media agency, the ad agency world is trying to put more emphasis and onus on commitments, responsible investment commitments to diverse owned publishers, right? we haven't touched on the influencer space, the creator space yet. And there is a massive long tail of helping communities and helping engage with, with diverse creators and influencers. So in the conversations that we've been having with agencies, this is definitely an area that they're interested in, and certifying the Uplify network, so that people know, right, who's diverse and who's not, so we can really help support the communities and the audiences. So that's an area that I think people are going to start focusing on more as well, hopefully.
Yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more about the shift to live streaming, right? Because if you sort of think about the pendulum of content consumption, right, from when we were kids, that everything was scheduled and you weren't able to watch things, time shifted, to almost entirely time shifted, where nobody watched except for sports and news, nobody watched it live, right? And now it seems like, from what you're saying, with the rise of streaming, maybe gaming streaming is driving this, but maybe other forms of streaming as well. But when it's streamed and it's sort of a special event, people are now blocking off time on their calendar. I can certainly see that for my son, when there's some kind of a tournament going on for one of the games that he's active in, right? He's like, oh, I got to get back by 3 o'clock. I'm like, why do you need to get back by 3 o'clock?
Right.
So, I'd love to hear more about that trend back towards sort of scheduled programming, which hasn't been around really for a while.
Yeah, I mean, everything from tune in, right, to specific content or product launches. I think there was a huge expansion of this with the Hollywood strikes last year, because as live entertainment kind of took a hit, especially late night, on the network TVs, and nothing was being recorded, people started to look for, content to eat elsewhere. So I don't know, Pasha, if you want to talk a little more about also how this is expanding beyond gaming. We're seeing a huge shift beyond gaming content.
Yeah, so let me put it this way. So the live pace, so the live pace is really increasing, yes, and influencers who are doing the live content, they have more highly engaged audience. So and that's why the audience is like to interact with their influencer. So this is a possibility for the audience to interact with their favorite influencer or with a brand that is inside of the content. So and definitely it's much more valuable, I would say, yeah, than the pre-recorded content, because it's a harder job to do when you do the live. And you can do this live stream content in YouTube Live, in Twitch, or in Instagram or TikTok, yes, and it's a much harder job, and the audiences really appreciate that. So yeah, so and we definitely have big piece of the live stream content, and so 50% is gaming, but another 50% is a non-gaming content with a different categories like a music, entertainment, cooking, yeah. So and different bunch of content that people are doing live, and they're interacting with their. So it's like think of it as a TV 2.0.
Yeah.
So right now you have different channels on the traditional TV, but with the live stream, with the content creators doing the content live stream, so it's 10 million people going live every month. Can you imagine? 10 million people, they're doing their own TV. Yeah, and there are people who are watching this content and engaging with this content.
Right.
So one of the other big questions we always get is, well, it's live. What is the brand safety aspect around this? And we're cracking that too, right? So we have the technology and the means to make sure that the brand safety is in there, as well as the 100% viewability and all of the other, guidelines that we need as advertisers to make sure that the brand is showing up in the right place, to the right individuals. So
yeah, well, what's fascinating about it is when the influencer is their own little mini publisher, they have the ultimate pressure to remain brand safe, right? They don't want to get themselves in trouble with an individual advertiser or just in general, right? So it's not that they're all necessarily fully family safe, right? From the perspective of, F-bombs and such. Perhaps those still, slide on. Those become part of the authentic experience for a lot of these folks. And so it's not that they they restrain themselves that much, but they certainly
Mhm.
keep themselves generally brand safe because their livelihood relies on it.
Totally.
Yeah, but we're not fully reliant on them with the creators. So we have visual content moderation suite. So we categorize all the content that is happening, and if there is an appropriate content or an appropriate wording, then there's a red flag in the system, and it means the sponsorship insert will not pop up. Yes. So in this case, brands in the safe environment. Yes. So it's even in the more safer environment than in the paid social. Just imagine you buy the advertising in Facebook, but you never know what the post is about on the left hand side. Yeah. So we are here even in more safe environment, I think, than even in the paid social.
Great. Well, that's all excellent stuff to think about as the ecosystem continues to evolve, and you guys have certainly come up with a fascinating way to deliver relevance and scale at the same time within the ecosystem, within the influencer community and the creator community. So I appreciate you sharing the stories with us and the best practices.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thanks for having us, Kevin. It's been great.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.